Welcome to the Healers Cafe. And today I have a second episode with Dayna Wylder. And she's going to talk about, because we didn't get a chance last time to talk about her book that's available, and also to demonstrate what a treatment is actually like. And we have Tony, whom you might be familiar with because he's been on my podcast in the last 6 months or so, uh, you know, demonstrating different type of techniques. And, again, not all techniques. It's not that they work or they don't work. It's that, is it the right time? Is it the right moment for this type of therapy to work? And why I love um, introducing different work, some of which I'm familiar with, some which I'm not, is because it's really up to us to find that synchronicity, that gel with the therapy that we choose and the therapist that might be delivering it. So I'm really thrilled, Dana, that you are doing this and you're with us today. So why don't we just, you can say a few words about you, but this is episode 2, and then your book.
Yeah, so my book and both my business and how I got into this really was born out of necessity because my own health really took a dive. And the first, I would say, 10 years of my own multiple sclerosis journey, I did pretty well. So I didn't really fully respect it. I didn't really understand how things could go. And then 5 years ago, I really had a major relapse that really shook my reality. And really found that none of the solutions being offered to me were something that felt aligned or that I was willing to do. And so I had to really start seeking my own ways of healing. And that came in different waves for me, first with the physical body, diet and exercise, yoga, realizing I plateaued there, and then ending up having to treat the energy body. And then once the energy body and I put the energy there, I still found that there was times where I stopped healing. And then I really got into where I'm at now, what we're going to be doing today, which is bioresonance scanning, which is a way to take a snapshot of the energy body to see what in the blueprint in the energy field is out of alignment. Because once we get the information governing the energy correctly to do the biochemistry in the body, we're really getting a whole picture. And that's my book. My book, Unlearn Disease, Relearn Well-being, is my own journey woven into all of these modalities. And it takes you through the five koshas or layers of the body as written by yoga, which is physical body, energy body, mental body, wisdom body, and ending in a bliss body, which is really that higher consciousness, purpose, and divinity that we all have.
Mm. And where can people get the book?
Book is on Amazon right now. You can also get links to it through my website at energyovermatter.com.
Okay. And Amazon, is it in Canada or US or both?
It's actually both, so all over the world.
Okay. Okay,
Amazon, from
great.
any country you're in, it should be available.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, I guess we could maybe just explain that we sent in a voice scan and we filled out a questionnaire. And that was just sent prior to this interview, not to waste time doing that, but it took very little time to do the voice. It was basically counting numbers so that the computer got the voice. So that's as far all I know. So I'll let you lead this and talk to Tony if there's questions.
Yeah, so the whole process really starts by just creating an account. And then once you have an energy account, and there's all kinds of amazing things under there. I don't know if I expressed that to you guys as well too. There is bioenergetic recipes and there's imprinted music that deals with different topics of maybe trauma or letting go or any kind of emotion. And there's also products available to purchase there. Now, the voice scan is something that's called quantum electrodynamics. It can be done either through the voice or through a handheld device where you just place your hand on it. And what it's doing is hundreds of times over 10 seconds, it's going back and forth, reading the frequency that you're emitting and comparing that to the expected frequency. And the company I work for is about 40 years now into research, and they have about 240 different points mapped. So this could be an organ, this could be a meridian system, an emotion. It's different layers of sort of energetic blueprints. And what we're looking at here is to just get a snapshot of the energy at a certain moment in time to look at what kind of patterns, what we might find there that might be creating symptoms upstream from where you're finding them and things that you might not have had insight. So we first do by detecting, and then we're going to use a device for providing correct frequency back into the body. And then there's also products available that go with it, which is imprinted frequency. So this is water that's been structured. It has colloidal minerals put into it to help with cellular uptake, and then it has frequency played to it. So whether we're doing it directly through a device or by drinking the liquid remedies, what we're doing is information therapy. So instead of a pharmaceutical approach where we're taking something physical, we're treating physical with physical. In this
Mhm.
case, we're using energy to correct the information in the body, and then downstream, all things will work better. So exercise, diet, lifestyle, all those other things. This doesn't supersede it, it doesn't erase it, it just works with it. It's kind of the
Mhm.
physics that goes downstream to everything else.
Mhm.
So once I had your scan, and the reason why I got you to do the voice scan first before the intake form is because I really like for the scan to be sort of independent of any information that I already had about you. Because energy can always be have intentions applied to it too, because our thoughts are a type of energy as well too. So I'm just going to share a screen here so that we can um, go through the scan together. Are you guys seeing my screen now?
Yep, that's perfect. Mhm.
Sorry, I'm just going to need to forgive me for the tech.
I can take that part out, don't worry.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually do things in person as opposed to just remotely. Okay, so the first screen that we're looking at when we look at the scan here, and just so you know, there's a lot of information contained here, and you're going to get the report when we're done, and you're going to go through it in more detail than we can cover right here, because even in an hour consultation, there's always way more information than we can cover. So, and I also just wanted to just make a caveat here too, that this is not a diagnostic tool. So I don't diagnose anything here. What we're really just looking at is the energy patterns in the body. But often what we see is they correlate and they overlap with the diagnoses that we have. So in this case, Tony, just want to explain to people just quickly what it is that you have and you were suffering with?
Yeah, excuse me. So it started off, I had shingles, and that went away quite quickly with Manon doing homeopathy, and then after that, it's kind of called post-neuralgia, and it's pain all the way down my right hand side and in my ear, and basically it feels like somebody's sticking knitting needles in me. Like I'm very visual like that, or yeah, it's very painful, and I have that quite consistently throughout the day
Mhm.
between
Okay,
like
so I think first I'm sorry to hear that that's going on, and I think when I looked at your scan that we can definitely see some things that are kind of aligning with what's going on with you. So the first screen that we look at is energy source, and energy source is really about how we gain energy from the outside. So external energy and how we bring it into the body, because everything in life is an energy exchange, and without energy, we die. So these ones in the beginning, when we're looking at it, are the fundamentals, sort of our diet and bringing, through chemistry into the body, movement, hydration, oxygenation, how we're sleeping in the day and the night. And then further down on here, we're looking at things like the big field alignment. So this is more about our relationship with the bigger energies of the earth. So the polarities, the equilibrium of the earth, the axis of north being at the top and south at the bottom, matching also in our head that we're more negative at the top and so, positive at the bottom. We're looking here for priorities, which will show as purple, or as these orange ones when you have 3 bars of orange, or solid all the way across in purple. Nothing comes up here as a major priority for you, which means that all of the ways in which you're bringing in energy that you're, capable of controlling, you're doing a good job. And I did see on your intake form that you do exercise and you do eat well and you avoid lots of toxic things. And I'm sure that helps having your wife be a naturopath and knowing how to really like take care of the body. So there's nothing really on this screen to discuss. You could really, like, if you want, when you're going home and you're looking at these things afterwards, when you click on them, just to be aware that it brings you to another screen, which will discuss that energy field and things that could potentially go wrong with it and solutions that you might have to improve it. But because of time today, I'm not going to go into the orange ones. I'm going to try to just stick with the purple priorities. So the next screen that we come to is our energy strength screen. And this one is, if anybody's familiar here with germination theory. So this is the idea that when we first develop in utero, that source, the very first one here, that's like the egg being fertilized. So that's that first spark of life that comes. And then as that baby develops in utero, what are all of the things that are developing at the same time? So our heart imprinter is developing next, and then we're going through to the cells starting to divide. We get a nervous system, our blood starts to circulate, and so on. And this is how we end up when you look at Chinese medicine, linking things like our liver, our gallbladder, and our eyes. Even though they're not beside each other necessarily touching in our physical body, they were all developing at the same time as we were developing in our mothers. So they energetically share a similar pattern and frequency. So this is where we get our first purple for you, and we get this in the lung driver. So the driver is now about the strength. It's the driver of the energy. So how strong is the energy going through this part of your body? And although we didn't have a purple one on the energy source, you do see that there is a little bit of yellow here under oxygen. So it is showing that you're having an issue bringing proper oxygen in, and that's affecting the drive and how much energy is in the lung. Now, the lungs, like I seen in your intake form that you do exercise and you do yoga, so I'm sure that you are familiar with diaphragmatic breathing. But one of the things that happens when we have a lot of pain is we tend to hold our breath because pain is constricting, pain is holding, and it's intense when we're having it. And when that's happening, the chance that we're taking a really big belly breath that's slow and rhythmic, it really diminishes. And so there is something here just about the vitality of the breath and the amount of oxygen that you're bringing in that really would be beneficial to try. I know one of the strategies you're using when the pain is to get up and walk around, but maybe adding to that, really trying to breathe into the pain and to try to really keep in mind that oxygen is the like it's probably 90% of the energy that we get from the outside source, right? Is to bring oxygen into the body and moving it around. And when we fail to do that adequately, it really affects everything downstream because oxygen is going to go through the blood and then into every single organ in the body. So it is really a primary thing. And when we see problems with the lung driver, it tends to have low vitality, so energy will get very low. And there's a lot of immune function done in the lungs as well. And so immune system will also get compromised. And now with shingles, it is a virus, the herpes virus that once we have it as chicken pox, that does come up again in these other kinds of forms. And so there is something there to do with your immune system, and it manifested again in shingles. And now once we have an issue in the lungs, it can really lower the immune response ongoing as well too. So something, just as a practice maybe to do at home for this would be tracing the lung meridian. So right in this indent sort of between your shoulder and your chest. When you press into it, you'll feel a natural indent there. And sometimes it's actually a little bit of pain. And especially when you have a problem with your lung, when you press into there, it tends to be a bit tender. And so you can always do, just as a practice to try to bring strength back into the lung driver, is massage that trigger point, that acupressure point. And after you massage it for about 30 seconds, you're just going to trace down the inside of your arm and all the way down and out your thumb. And you just trace that a couple times. So from that point, and you trace it all the way down your arm and out your thumb, and just repeating that maybe 3 times and both sides. And that'll bring energy into the area. So we are going to do treatments today with energy devices, but this is something that's free and accessible, and you could do it multiple times throughout the day to try to bring new energy into the lung. Now, the only other thing that showed up here, and there's a couple of them that, again, they're not purple, so I won't spend a lot of time there, but they do show up as orange, is kidney, spleen, and bone. And when I look at this as a pattern now, there's a lot on your scan about the energetic terrain for immunity. So kidneys has a lot to do with energy as well. It's where we keep our store, our jing. So the Chinese say this is where you get your ancestral energy reserves from. And when we get sick and depleted, we kind of deplete that jing. And it is something that when I looked at this scan, your adrenals come up. And adrenals is, and we see it here in the kidneys coming in the adrenals, that this is something that when we have fight or flight, or we're stressed, or we're worrying about something, it tends to activate, and we produce a lot of cortisol. And when we're doing that, we're not really producing the other hormones in the body because we're spending a lot of time in this one spot. Now, also with the kidneys, that's a lot with energy. We see the spleen, and spleen is also another big energy organ in the body. So, and it has a lot to do with immunity as well. So some of the things here is like learned immunity. The spleen is also your lymph and cleaning of blood and production of antibodies. So again, we're seeing something here with the immune system being activated for you. And although bone does a lot of things, in the bone, that's where you make your immune cells and your red blood cells. So seeing the bone show up there as well says to me, again, something with your immune system and that learned immune system. So when you're having chicken pox and you're younger and it's coming back as shingles, that there's something energetically stuck that didn't quite process through, which could be why you're still having a residual effect, even though the virus itself isn't active anymore, but you're having this neurological pain as a result.
You
So
know,
when you're going to look at this later, I
yeah,
want you just to also pay attention that when you click on these, that not only are you getting the write-up at the bottom, but you're also getting, sorry, I'm just going to move this. You get these little windows over here, like drop-down menu, and you can move through these because it's giving you all kinds of more information.
mhm.
So the next one, when we move one screen over now, we're in energy flow. And energy flow to me is more akin to the meridians. So now we're dealing directly with the organs and the meridian systems that correspond with them. And you didn't have purple showing up on this one. There's only some orange. But what I thought was interesting is that you got the neurosensory large intestine. And lung is a yin organ, and it is paired with the large intestine, which is the yang partner for the lung. And this one comes up here as well. And the neurosensory part of this is you also have like when we see here the dermis. So this is the skin. And it is a lot of our nerves. So 90% of our nerves are actually sensory nerves going up to the brain, and only 10% are the motor neurons going out. So when we have an issue here with the nerves and the senses in the dermis, that can be where this prickling, this sensation of pain can be coming from. And it is related to the large intestine because it's linked to the lung and immunity. And when we think of these things energetically now and emotionally, the lungs is related a lot with grief and sadness and holding on to those kinds of emotions. And it's also about what do we take in. So it's really at the top of the system. Like we eat, we swallow the air, it comes to our lungs. And then the other system is eating and swallowing food, and it ends at large intestine out to the colon. So both of these systems are about what are we taking in, what are we assimilating, And what are we ready to let go of? Because the lungs need to let go of the carbon dioxide and the intestines need to let go of the waste products on the other end. So there is this sense sometimes of emotionally learning how to take in what was only necessary, make sense of it, and then learning to let go of it on the other end. So, with the emotional stuff, I'm not, it's hard for me to say because I'm not in your head and I don't know you well enough. You'll have to kind of make sense for yourself some of the emotional components as we go through. But I wanted to just point out some of the places where we start to see things light up on this little man over here. So when we're looking here now, instead of purples and oranges, we're looking for number score. So when we have a 0, that's low, and 4 is the high. So we're looking really for 3s and 4s on this to see where things are kind of lighting up. And I noticed when I was looking at yours that we had so things in the colon again, and also in the sinus and in the lungs. So this one we're seeing here, we have 3 in the ascendant colon. The lymphatics, which also was an orange. When we come over to here, we're seeing a lot in the cranial sinus field and in the frontal sinus field. And when you're talking about this pain being up and around your ears and this part of your sinus on the side, these are places that are lighting up also on here. And that was kind of consistent when I was looking through it. Some of the ones that maybe it didn't, and there's your adrenals again, also showing up with a 4. So even though this wasn't lit up as something that we were showing a purple for, it's still really informative if you go through this and start to just click on things and really have a look, especially because, Manon, you're really going to understand this, with your background, all these connections and what this could really mean for Tony and ways that you can now support him at home
Mhm,
too, because there's really a wealth of information beyond 1 hour of
mhm,
our time together. So yes, we're looking for the purples. That's what we're going to give treatments for, and that's what we're going to give infoceutical products for. But there's really so many layers here of things that are just kind of connecting.
mhm,
So the next one we move to now is to the mind body. And this is now where we start getting less in the physical and the organs and meridians and more into the mind. So these first 4 here, which one is purple for you, are different types of holograms in the brain. So yours is lighting up under the brain stem. So brain stem is the most primal part of our brain, the older parts of our brain. And there's a lot to do here with like the feeling of survival and safety. Almost if you think of here like the root chakra, almost like this is kind of like the origins and those most primal of kind of feelings. And the hologram here just means that what is the kind of overarching map or frequency our mind is sending into our body? And when we get stuck here, that hologram keeps projecting these feelings into the field, and our thoughts and our emotions end up manifesting as physical symptoms in the body. So again, when you're looking at this, we can click onto these side things, and we come over here, and again, we're looking at the numbers. So we're seeing which ones are lighting up for you. So we have isolation as one emotion, fairness, feeling vulnerable. And again, if you click on one of these, when you go down to the bottom, you'll get a little write-up about this. And so I would really take the time to go through these because I think that for a lot of people, we might underestimate how much our thoughts shape our emotions and how much the emotions then create a physical cascade of a chemical reaction in the body that actually really blankets us either in healing hormones or unhealthy ones. And so the mind really has a profound effect on whether we heal or we get better or we don't. Another one that lit up for you here is Liberator. And
mhm,
Liberator is one of they're called feel-good infoceuticals. So they're ones that are just available without a practitioner. So I don't have to scan somebody in order for them to buy these ones. They can just make an account and then just buy them online. And the feel-good infoceuticals are kind of more emotionally based or like something just like cold flu immunity or you need something help with sleep. So the Liberator one is an overarching infoceutical that sort of liberates the stored trauma in the mind. So whatever you've been sort of holding back, suppressing, maybe things that were in the subconscious that hadn't come to your awareness. And a lot of people, when they take the Liberator infoceutical, they find that they have really vivid dreams, or they even start to daydream more frequently, or kind of insights might come. And I know that you mentioned you meditated. So probably when you're meditating, you might have some more profound insights or things that sort of come to you when you're taking the Liberator, because it kind of takes off that dampening that we do sometimes when we're kind of, not really facing maybe, or not really bringing up to the surface what's going on. And on this one, on this screen, when we're in the mind body now, there's also different tabs going across the top here. So we click into the emotion, and the one that comes up in the positive emotion, and I'm not really sure I agree with the way they categorize these as positive and negative, because I don't really think that there are good and bad emotions. There's just emotions. They suit the situation they're in. The problem comes when we ruminate or we stay stuck on them. Our goal is just to feel them, acknowledge them, and let them go. But love shows up for you, and I just want to make another caveat here with the emotions. It doesn't always mean that you have not enough, or it could be too much, right? These things, that's why you got to look at it with your own intuition and kind of see how these things come to you. What it's just saying is that in your energy field, love stood out more than the other ones. And sometimes, even with these, and I've seen this happen, I had a friend whose child passed away last year. And because of my own scenario of having lost a child too, I was very much grieving for him. And for months, grief kept showing up on my scan, but it wasn't even my grief. It was for somebody else. And I've also seen it come up for people who are just really into a good book. And they were reading about a character, and then that emotion that they felt for that character was in their scan. So again, using intuition on these ones. And then on the negative flip side of this, grief was showing up. And I don't know if that resonates any of these in any way to you, but grief also is really linked with the lungs, and we've seen already some issues with the lungs and immunity. And then moving on to the next screen, we have energetic immunity. And I'm sure people maybe that listen to your show might be familiar with the difference between germ theory and terrain theory.
Mhm.
But if not, I'll just give a little synopsis of it.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so germ theory really says that everything is a pathogen or a virus that's attacking us, and that it all, really just comes down to we have bad genes and we have viruses that come in our body, and then we're kind of at the mercy of what happens. Where terrain theory is more the idea that the environment that in which we create within our mind and our body sets the terrain for whether something will ever, affect us or not. So it's kind of, I think the best example I've ever heard said about it is when you have a fish tank, if the fish starts getting some kind of scaly disease, do you give the fish antibiotics first, or do you clean the tank? Right. And so terrain theory is really about what does our tank look like? What are we living in? And this is the screen that lit up most for you, where we have the most purples coming up. So we have central nervous system, immune to, and then we have autoimmune at the bottom. And all of these really have a lot to do with your immunity. And it's not so much the necessarily the innate immunity, which we did see though in the spleen and the bone drivers coming up. So there might be a bit of that too. But this is more like what kind of state is your body in right now in order to fight off things if it comes into contact with it. So with the central nervous system, we also yeah, so central nervous system now in this case, it's not so much like maybe for me and you that have MS, we might see more things like glial cell come up, or the actual driver for the nervous system where we're actually showing there is an energetic problem with the nerves. In this case for Tony, it's not that the nerves are showing up here, it's the environment in which the nerves are in currently, which would make sense because he doesn't really have a neurological issue per se right now. He has a residual effect from a virus that's causing this central nervous system just to be activated. And one of the things that's central to the central nervous system one is that it also can be linked to childhood viruses. So when we come down here, we see, sorry. that in the last line there on the blue tab that comes up, that it can be affected by childhood viruses. And seeing as this virus of chickenpox and shingles, it starts generally we get infected as a child, that there could be something here, the same way that MS is linked with Epstein-Barr, is that there could be something here that because of whatever infection happened at a young age, if the body energetically didn't come back into coherence after that infection, this is why the shingles can reactivate, and how come maybe the shingles is turning into 2 years now of suffering with neurological pain, because there's still something in the energy body that hasn't quite overcome that childhood virus still. And it's not now because there's actual virus replicating in the body. It's not because there's an actual active infection. It's because the blueprint of the body surrounding that virus never corrected itself.
Actually, just to add a point, then apparently the shingles hides in the bone marrow. That's actually where, some people say there are no viruses, it's all environment, but whichever theory, it's the environment of the bone marrow that's maybe holding the memory.
And you've seen bone marrow showed up on the scan
Yeah.
in the beginning. And, I tend to think that there's a mix of both of these things. Like that's where I lie on it, is there's definitely pathogens and there's parasites. I mean, I've seen them in live blood analysis and in my pets. I know that there are these things that our body comes into contact, but I still think that it's very important for us to take full responsibility for, the food we're eating and the terrain in our body and the kind of people we expose ourselves to and, the kind of work we do for a living. All of these things matters tremendously to whether or not those viruses are dormant or whether we fight them off or whether we get infected and very sick from them.
Mhm.
So I'd
Yeah,
say
and I think
I meet in the middle. We both have both, I think.
I think the issue with the virus compared to bacteria or parasites is the clinical, can it be isolated? Right? That's the big question. And that's just the artifact of, how it needs to be shown in science. Right. And I think that's the question too. It might be also, maybe viruses can't be isolated, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. Maybe they're like parasitic to a cell. You know what I mean? So it's a
Yeah,
very
well, I mean, we're
complex,
we're
I
trying to
don't
ask
know.
people here today to believe in things they can't see, right? We don't see the energy body, right? And
No,
so if there's
exactly.
other things, just because we don't prove it doesn't necessarily make it true or not. I think a lot of these things, it's how do
Mhm.
we experience them,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if we experience that we got sick from something, I mean, I guess really for me, does it really matter all the other things behind it? If I got sick, I got sick. So
Exactly. And you do
yeah.
what you can, and what you can is your environment. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it gives a lot of sovereignty and
Mm,
autonomy to people.
exactly.
And it takes some of the pressure off the doctors because I feel like sometimes come down on doctors and condemn them quite a bit, the allopathic doctors. But the truth is that, I've talked to some of them before and they say that they don't really talk about diet and lifestyle because there's no compliance with people.
Mm,
And, I mean, that's lazy on their part too, but it's also
mhm.
lazy on the patient's part that we just go to the doctor and say, you know what, I have a lifetime of not taking good care of myself. Now give me a pill to fix it. But I don't want to do anything about it. Just fix me.
Yeah.
Right? It's really, we can't just only blame one side. We really have to look
Mhm.
at like, what is this relationship and where is it broken and what can we do to fix it?
Right.
Yeah. So moving into the energy, or sorry, the immune two coming up. This one, I mean, it has a lot to do with immunity and generally heavy metals. Now, I never really like when I looked at, I'm just going to jump screens here for a minute. When I go to your environment and I looked at toxic metals, there's lead showed up a little bit, but there's none that are really outstanding here. So I have a feeling when I look at that there could be something other than a heavy metal. Some of them have to do, like especially more when you see it in immune three, it has more to do with immunity that fails after a trauma. And so maybe this one's bleeding into that a little bit more, where there would be a stressful event, something much like my own MS during the pandemic, right? When I was being threatened by work and all of these things, it lowered my immune system. And then that, creates now the perfect breeding ground for my MS to come back and attack. And maybe something like that going on here too, where there was just something that just kind of takes you off your center enough that your immune system struggles and these things come back into your environment.
I think for because Tony's right now in an acute moment of pain, so I'll just speak for him. But I think, for the etiology of this, it was during the pandemic when, we were aware that this, there's a lot of dangers, and we were trying to avoid family taking unnecessary routes on experimental things, but we weren't allowed to speak. And I think that this being shut up and being seen as a tinfoil hatter and not really following the science and all this business was a huge trigger in Tony's case.
Yeah, and you know what, you can see it here too, because if I go back to the mind body again, and we look at the brainstem and the hologram. So this one, when you read that last line again here in the blue tab, you see that it's themes of survival, existence, and family. And what
Mhm.
could summarize better what happened during COVID, especially for those of us that understood the dangers and
Mhm.
we're trying to, warn our family and friends to be met with them, disliking us. Right.
Right.
And really, and at least in my case, I failed in quite a few cases to, prevent people from harming themselves now and the repercussions they're suffering. So I think it really rocked all of our foundations. So it doesn't surprise me that this one is showing up here and how it is expressing itself energetically and through the rest of the scan.
Mm.
So when we get into the energy stars, sorry, did you have a question there?
No, no, I'm
Okay.
fine. Thank you.
So the energy stars now, this is where they kind of are starting to look at the patterns overall. So the energy star is not necessarily one thing on the scan that showed up, right? Like it wasn't, oh, the heart cell showed up or this meridian. This is kind of looking at the overall pattern as to like what's really going on. And in this case, the autoimmune comes up. And I don't always see this one that it has to be like necessarily an autoimmune disease that you're diagnosed with here, but it's more the fact that the body is kind of turned on itself a little bit, right? Where it's overactive. So the shingles, even though it's whatever acute phase of the shingles is gone, the body still is in overdrive. It's still
Mm.
reacting. It's still doing something. It's still, really in panic mode, right? The adrenals are still going there. It's feeling the pain all the time. And it becomes, a cyclical though, because as you feel the pain more frequently, then you don't breathe as good, then you're getting less oxygen, which is making you tired, which makes the pain and sleeping worse. And, it's a very hard hamster wheel to jump out of and to really start, doing the right steps to kind of heal all of it so that the energy patterns that have become disharmonious can get back into alignment so that all of the other wonderful things you do, like eating well and, hiking and yoga and meditation, all of those things are going to become way more meaningful once you correct this blueprint that's gone awry. Now there's another two screens on here, and I always, especially in this case, I'm going to include them here just for the viewers to see that they're possible. But there is so much more information here, and I feel sometimes, especially when I see people that are already have a lot of diagnoses and they're very worried about their condition. I don't like to give them so many things to look at because if they see a purple or they see something, then they really start to panic about it and they worry. I'm going to include them here for everybody just because, as a naturopathic doctor, you'll understand some of these things and what they are in the environment. And I just want to give another caveat before we look at any of them that say, like, we'll just take mold, for example. If if you had a whole bunch of purples in your mold showing up here, but you don't have any symptoms of mold exposure, it's one of those things I would just disregard it a little bit because it could have been that you lived when you were 18 years old in an apartment that had mold in it. And you don't any longer have the mold. It's not an issue for you, but energetically, it's still just like kind of hanging out there as unresolved. But I would only say some of these things matter if you have symptoms that match them, and also if you scanned month after month and they continuously showed up. Because if you're having the symptoms and these things are showing up all the time, then probably you have an issue here and you need to address them. Otherwise, I think that we should not, it's kind of like with the EMF mitigation and some of these things. It's so hard to get chemical free now and to reduce our exposure to things. And if we stress about it and we worry about it, that negative stress and worry actually is counterproductive.
Hmm.
So, the only thing I'll really talk about on this one is like the one I usually talk to about with people is the radiation, because this is one of the ones that we have the most control over right away. And here you actually, it looks good. There's no purple coming up, which is very surprising in this day and age because almost everybody I scan, this is all purple here because we are on our cell phones so frequently, computers, blue lights, a lot of technology. You have a little bit showing up in the EMF, but I think in this day and age, it's pretty difficult to not have something here. And when I go back to your energy source, where we talked about all those ways in which we interact with the planet and the bigger energy fields, nothing is purple here, which means that you're actually quite balanced here and everything looks good. And then, I'll just bring attention to that there is a nutrition screen here. And the
Mm.
nutrition screen is going to go through, like say in this case, we're looking at the minerals and vitamins. And I,
Wow.
I think that I read in your intake that you take B vitamins, and some of these are showing up as purple. And again, this doesn't mean that you don't have enough of it. It could mean you have an excess, or it could mean the one you're taking is just maybe the wrong one. So it doesn't necessarily mean you need to go buy a supplement right away if you see something or change anything. One of the things you always can do is using muscle testing or energy testing to hold the supplement that you're taking to you to see, is
Mhm.
that one right? Is it making you stronger? Is it making you weaker? And you could maybe adjust in that regard. But again, one of those things that you have to have a bit of intuition and guidance to kind of interpret it. But just to let you know how much more information is here when you look at this
Mm.
later, there's more drop-down fields here. So we
Yeah,
can look at,
you had a vitamin D, right, showed up?
let me go back. Yeah,
Yeah,
vitamin D and C.
D and C. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, because it looks like there could definitely be a deficiency of vitamin D or a DNA clip that's not allowing the absorption of vitamin D, because he is taking vitamin D.
Yeah, and again, that's one of those things that it could be that there's okay. My sister came one time and she wanted to bring me supplements to my house. She wanted me to do more potassium and sodium, and she was talking about them, and they were sitting on the table beside us, and I scanned her, and those came up on the scan.
Mm,
And I think that it was because we were just talking about them. So sometimes that's why I say with some of these things with a grain of salt and to kind of look at it intuitively. Because
right,
if you took these today and you were thinking about them and they were in your mind, then energetically those things are
right.
in the
In the
current
mind, yeah.
field right now.
Hmm.
Right. So that's why with some of these things, like with some clients, I don't provide these tabs otherwise.
Yeah.
But the one that is interesting for a lot of people is your sensitivities. And because you had autoimmune showing up, I thought we could talk about this one just quickly. And this is looking at like if there's something with the glutens coming up. And I think for you, I want to say there was citrus and nightshades, but we'll just go through them quick.
Mm,
So corn showing up.
mm.
And I think corn for all of us. I mean, this one
Yeah.
is one of the most genetically modified foods now. And, with the US trying to push corn so much, I think that it's uh, processed and harvested, not in
Like,
very ethical or sustainable, healthy ways.
hmm. Hmm.
And I think, yeah, I want to say it was citrus that came up.
Grapefruit and citrus fruit, but not lemons. Yeah. Interesting.
So again, some of these things too is I don't because I don't want people to think, oh, if they see something come up, they're like, oh, I could never eat that again. It could be different when you scan in a couple months that this could change where it's like your body just right now is just saying, yeah, I don't want as much of that right now, or I need more of that. And it can always be fluid and change over time. I think it was nightshades I want to go to. Yeah. So, um, So I don't know if there was, because I know your large intestine showed up, but I think that that had more to do with the immune factor and the neurosensory part. But the large intestine, when we eat lectins that are found in the nightshades, it can be damaging. So it can always scrape the lining of the intestinal tract and cause some digestion issues. I don't know if digestion is an issue or not for you.
No.
No, no, no.
Mhm.
No, I have a feeling when we seen it come up under the energy flow that it had more to do with that neurosensory and the dermis. It was more about the skin, and also that it's the yang to the yin of the lungs. So that's like they're both talking at the same time to each other. So for the scan, yeah, there's a lot of information there. I'll send a PDF copy to it afterwards, as well as on your account that you created. You can go back in and you can click on all of these fields and kind of go through and really see things that were maybe beyond what we had time to talk about only today, and to gain deeper insights because there's like a wealth of information here, and it's the kind of information that we don't really get in other ways because it's
Mhm.
not that often we get to look at the energetic blueprints of our bodies and then to start to see the bigger patterns of how our emotions tie into this, how the circumstances of our life, right? Which is something that's often missed when you just go to your regular family doctor, is that if they're treating you for something like shingles, they're not going to correlate that to 5 years ago and what was happening emotionally for you,
Mhm.
right? And so these scans are kind of a way to bridge, between the realms of mind, body, energy, and
Mhm.
emotion.
Mhm. No, I think it's a very good overall kind of assessment. I think it's very cool. I was thinking though, and with permission, right, I can talk a little bit about why
Sure.
it's on video.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we've done, or Tony has done quite a bit of work on past trauma, griefs. We've done different therapies like hypnotherapy and types of energetic work, to release all of that over the last, at least year and a half. Because, he knows that they're connected. So it's interesting though. It doesn't seem so far that any of them have really shifted that,
Yeah,
as
I
in
mean,
you still see it.
it depends on the practitioner as well, too, right? For some of these things, like who it is that has the skills to do it and also the shared energy too. Like who necessarily made you feel like the most supported and understood, because it is an energy exchange between practitioner and patient to really, um, you know, be seen and felt and supported through it, I think makes a big difference for people. And also, like you said in the beginning, it's not the same thing for everybody, right?
No, no,
We
no,
we
it's
all
interesting. Yeah.
you hear these wonderful success stories with some things and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to try that," and you follow down that hole and you never get the same result that somebody else might have got from doing it. But,
No, I know, because I definitely know people who, I mean, first of all, the therapists that we have seen, I would say I have no complaints on their compassion, presence, the connection, all of that was excellent. But I asked the other question, is it timing? Is there, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what happens when we do the scan, or not the scan, the treatment here to see whether they lift. And if they do, well, okay, that would be just unbelievably amazing. And if they don't, then where does a person go next? Like, because I mean, my whole podcast is about healing, the steps, what you can add. And then, of course, it's an individual thing, so we could look at, self-sabotage, but I mean, that didn't come up in your scan. It didn't come up anywhere else, but, you wonder, like, why is it some people hold on longer? Those types of questions, right? And a lot of that is not conscious, it's unconscious, so doing a lot of the unconscious work technically should release all of this, right? So anyway, these are all my pre kind of questions. But
Yeah. And
so what?
sometimes with the energy devices, and it says the reason why when we take like say the infoceutical product that goes with it, it is taking the drops every single day because that way the body wants to go back to disharmony because like even with the subconscious, we go back to our programming over and over. But we have to constantly remind the body, no, this is where we want to be. And you have to keep bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back. And so
Yeah,
the energy device is good because it gives that direct information right away into the body. But when you use the related products to it, it's kind of like the reminder every day. So
yeah,
if your
yeah.
body starts to go unconscious again, you're giving it that frequency and saying, no, 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 please stay here. This is where we want to resonate at now.
Hmm.
So sometimes even if you don't get results like in the first treatment, it's not because that modality doesn't work. It's just because it's going to take time for the body to readjust. And I think depending on how systemic the issues become too. So some things like energy can shift very quickly, right? We change thoughts and our energies instantly shifts. But when the body gets stored emotions and trauma and they go deeper, once it becomes like in the physical body, unfortunately, the physical body is constrained with time and space. So
Hmm.
now, you have the length it takes to heal a nerve cell compared to a cardiac cell, compared to the tissue of
Hmm.
skin, right? Like they all kind of have now, different timelines to heal, but energetically, they can shift instantly. But
Right.
sometimes the body takes a little bit to catch up to what the information has changed.
Yeah, no, I would say that's definitely consistent with what I've seen when I used to have a practice.
Mhm.
So, no, I think that's true. Yeah. Well, shall we do this? And then I'll yeah, I mean I may as well record it anyways, and I'll cut it off if it's too long for people to wait.
Sure, I'm just trying to get the device to just turn on because for some reason it's not cooperating.
So should I get a vial of water to imprint this information as you're doing it?
Sorry, we repeat that again,
Should
please?
I get a vial like of water, like so that he can do drops of this information? Is that a good idea?
Well, I mean, if you have a glass of water there, we can try to use the intention and the frequency to treat the water as well.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna get the a proper glass. Now, it's interesting. Another symptom Tony has is when we talk about his symptoms, he's significantly worse.
Okay.
So he's like now not quite here, but I'll bring him back in when we start. So just give me a moment.
Do you mind if we just pause for one moment while I just get the,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah?
Let me do that. Yeah. I'll just turn that on. Okay. And I can cut out anything, when whatever.
Okay, so
I think you
what we're
should be
going to
more in the
do,
picture. Yeah. Hi.
okay, what we're going to do next now for Tony is using my Health device. So this device is got a few different technologies in it. So if we were working in person, it has something called CNAR in it, which is self-controlled energo, energo, get the acronym right here, neuro adaptive response. And what that does is it uses a microcurrent to go into the body. And that microcurrent, as the nervous system responds to it, it feeds back into the system and they go back and forth and respond to each other. And in that case, you almost get like a magnetic, sticky feeling whenever you reach this point of low impedance. And this is where the energy wants to almost go into the body. And you can hear the difference. But in this case, because we're working remotely, I'm going to switch it to broadcasting or off body mode. And what this is now is for anyone that might have a hard time imagining, the same way that we're on Zoom right now with each other is the same way that this works, is that we have, a signal on both ends and we're sending an open broadcast that goes out through the ether. And any of you that are familiar with quantum physics or the quantum field is that the easiest way I'd like to think about this idea of non-locality or no more time and space is if you had a sheet of paper and you pulled on one end, the entire paper moves at one point. So now that me and Tony have been discussing and I'm reviewing his scan and we're discussing this, we're already in the same connection. We're entangled right now energetically. So as I play this device, what I'm going to have Tony do is to think about the body parts as I discuss them, and then to really send his intention there. And maybe even you massage that point, you touch it, you tap on it, you do something to just enliven that part of your body so that it knows that that's where we're communicating. And we'll both use our own intention to kind of set the stage here for this healing to happen remotely. So when I start the device, the first thing we're going to do, and just so everybody can see where I'm getting this information from. When we did the scan, these first five things are the infoceutical products that were recommended for you based on your scan. But underneath here, we have the My Health functions. And this is now where it was suggesting that we treat your lungs, your kidneys, your spleen, and the perineum, which is like the kind of like the fascia or the connective tissue around the entire stomach. So it's kind of connecting the whole abdomen. But before we even get into those four specific frequencies, the first thing I want to do is play something called matrix for you. And a matrix carrier is thinking about the entire field. So this is your entire hologram, the blueprint of Tony, the whole body. So when I start, we're going to do 2 minutes, and I just want you to close your eyes and now to just envision this energy moving like the toroidus field. So it's coming from above your head, it's moving down through you, it's circling back up, and it's encompassing you. And now for 2 minutes, I just played this frequency of the matrix carrier to you. And although there's hundreds of settings in the device, I like to start with this one because it kind of enlivens your whole body first. And although it might not be good for entertainment on the viewer's end, I do want to try to give Tony some silence to just feel into the energy. And really imagining that your entire matrix is coherent and blanketed under one unified field of harmony, where you're safe and protected, and where you can take a deep, slow breath into your belly. Letting go of the fear and the need to survive. And now we're moving into your lungs, just bringing your attention to those places, those indents between your shoulder and your chest muscles. And breathing in healing light. Vital, new energy entering the body. Radiating down the meridian. In the yin side of the front of your arm, the soft side of the underarm. And through the elbow. And this breath and this light coming down the forearm and out of your thumb. And with each breath, new vital light circulating your entire body with new energy for your nervous system to draw on as it calms itself now. You have the energy now to heal. As your lungs know what was safe to take in and what needed to let go. As you purify your mind, your body, and next we move into your kidneys, located in the back of your body, just below your ribs. And with each breath we take now, we're not only preserving, but restoring the Jing, the universal ancestral energy that was given to us. Energy that we can use to heal our body, to calm our adrenals, and to let go of any fear because you're safe. In this moment, you're supported, you're loved. And it's not just me and your wife, but it's all the viewers and everybody now watching, regardless of if they watch now or in the future, because time doesn't matter. We're all sending love and light to you. We're all healing you. Continue to see this healing light glowing bright in your kidneys, where we're storing energy that we need for our future. And in a moment, we're moving to our spleen. And the spleen is on your left side, tucked in your lower ribs and abdomen. And now we're sending healing love and light to the spleen. And the spleen is more than an organ. It's part of the endocrine system. And it's big and it's powerful, has strong energy. And it helps you to metabolize not just nutrients, but experiences. To metabolize the events that have already happened and might happen still in the future. And to build our immune system and our resiliency. Continuing to breathe into the spleen. Letting go of worry and pain. And always remembering to breathe deep, to continue to bring the oxygen to our lungs. that feeds the vitality and energy to the rest of our body. It's clean and pure and healing light. And as we continue to breathe into this area, we begin to expand our awareness, not just to the spleen, but to the entire abdomen. And we know the difference by our diaphragm flattening down on our inhalation to massage our lower organs. And this is a part of our body that isn't well protected, but it's safe now, fueled by the diaphragm's gentle movements and the power and vitality of the lungs. As a protective layer around the entire abdomen. Protected and shielded. And you can let go of any holding. Any tightness. To all those primal feelings of fear and worry and survival. Because you're safe. Breathing here. And the final frequency is that of the Liberator. And this allows us to let go of the gripping in our mind as we liberate it to find creative solutions for our problem. We liberate this subconscious. So in the future, when we sleep and we dream and we heal and we wake, every time we'll have a new idea and solution to how to heal our body and move forward. Liberated from the struggle and the holding and gripping. And we'll take one final moment to send healing frequencies to Tony so that he can walk forward in the rest of his day and the rest of his life without the pain. And that's it. Your program is run. You can open your eyes and come back.
Great.
Wow. I think a lot of that was very helpful for me too.
Wait, this is my healing.
No, I'm sorry. I'm a bit connected to you.
So,
Well, you have a very nice voice
Yeah, I was
doing that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, yeah, it's been a rough morning, and but I was certainly able to oh be still in that session there. And yeah, one of the funny things with this, I think Manon mentioned it before, but when we talk about it, it gets worse for me. It's so early on when we were going through that chart, it was like, oh my God, it just,
Hmm.
and it seems weird because I tend to think if somebody else told me that, I'd be, oh, well, it's all in your mind. But believe me, this, it's really, is very painful. But how it can come and go like that, I find that quite extraordinary as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
It feels like it should be there the whole time or not there at all, but
Hmm.
that's not the case, obviously.
Hmm.
Well, it just kind of shows the power of our mind and what we focus on. And
Yeah,
it is always one of the things when I do the scans with people that always fear that sometimes when you show people these things that they might have something else to worry about. But hopefully what happens that even in that momentary discomfort of finding some of the possible solutions and root causes is that going forward, you don't have to think about the pain anymore because maybe you can find a way to the other side.
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. What is the pain now? Give you a number.
Oh, it's about a 7 or 8, I think. Yeah,
Okay. Mm.
it kind of comes and goes. Yeah, yeah. I'm not. I must say, I'm not really a worrier.
No.
Stuff like that doesn't
Okay.
really kind of concern me. It's never been my forte to be worried, really. But I'd like to get rid of the pain is the main thing. But
Mhm. But it did show up spleen as worry, right? In your emotional thing, but maybe that is more subconscious in your case.
yeah, it must be.
Maybe to do with the past, because it's he's not typically a worrier at all, right? Which is interesting. But I do think given everything we've heard here, it does feel like it's an old experience.
Yeah,
I don't know, that's what I'm feeling, hearing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't always just have to be right now. Some of these things can be from childhood, they can be from other parts of your life. And, I think a lot of it does happen in early years, though, because it's when we live in theta wave and we tend to be pretty much being in hypnosis during all those years of our life. Right?
Mm.
Because when we are trying to get people into deep meditation or into hypnosis, you're trying to put them in theta wave. And when you're under 7, that's where we live all the time. So really
Yeah.
all the things that happen to us at that time in our life are getting stored in our memory and we're not really aware of them. And, so it's one thing to unconsciously make a decision not to be a worrier. Although I would even suggest that, once you have pain all the time, it's like they say with anxiety, sometimes if people have anxiety, it's the fear of the anxiety attack that gives them the anxiety, and it's the same
Right.
thing
Yeah.
here where maybe the that you're worried about becoming in pain gives you something to worry about. So you get kind of stuck
Mm.
in that loop.
yeah, yeah. That's possible.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't like the scenario, but it's possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. So
oh,
your suggestion now would be to
oh,
take a sip of water just once a day or when the pain comes up as a reminder, like
oh,
Yeah, so generally with the infoceutical products, we do 15 drops a day. And then, I mean, but in this case, because you don't have it in a dropper, it's just water. But
I have droppers though. Yeah.
yeah, or you could just have like, a tablespoon of it, say, or something. You just take
Right.
some out. Because the thing, when they've just done a lot of studies, and it was very interesting
oh,
actually, University of California, San Diego, one of their Dr. Himal Patel, I want to say his name is, he tried to disprove infoceuticals. And he tried to say that it was BS, and they did studies, and they actually proved that they work in
Yeah.
their effort to
Yeah.
disprove them.
Yeah.
Uh, and when they were doing it, they found very much like homeopathy that the dilution didn't matter. So with the infoceuticals, whether you took a small amount or whether you took a large amount, it was the what was imprinted in it that mattered, not the dosage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying there. I don't know how big your glass of water is, but you could, and you could spread it out 2 times a day too, if you feel, or take it like most infoceuticals I recommend people take in the morning unless they're taking ones that are specifically for like chill or something that's better at nighttime.
Mhm.
But
Right.
I'm not sure that infoceuticals, they're not an immediate response where you take it and it's boom, it
Right.
worked in that
Yeah.
moment. So just the consistency of taking it, even just every morning, over time is just reminding your body. Because one session we do right now, I mean, you might just be calm from the session now, but I don't even claim to say that one energy session is heals somebody because just like anything, we have to practice it and do it over and over. But taking the infoceuticals every day, what you've done right now with the water. And the infoceuticals actually come with like they already were filtered in ozone in them and the minerals in them. But one of the interesting things they found about and I don't know if you've been aware of the studies like Emmanuel Moto and the other people that have
Yeah.
studied the frequency in water is that
Mhm.
it didn't really matter so much the quality of the water as it did the emotion and intention put behind it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. So even when they thought positive thoughts or played nice music to dirty water, it still made a beautiful crystal.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then that's what I think a lot of these things, it's, yeah, it's nice to have the filtered clean water and to have the product, but the intention matters a lot too.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Well, so what will I guess like so if Tony was following up with you, like just so people know, what would be like he would do this, and then what would be your recommended treatment protocol
Yeah,
typically?
so if I was dealing with somebody who's only just doing the bioresonance scan, a follow-up right now would be I send you the reports and then I generally give like recommendations. We talked about some of the things with Tony today, like tracing the lung meridian.
Right.
We could also be doing the opposite one, which would be the large intestine meridian, which is now coming up the finger on the outside of the arm, up the neck, and
Mhm.
around the ear, which is where you were feeling these
Mhm.
pains,
That's
which is, telling to me that the place where you're feeling it is the two places where the meridians run that showed up
right.
on your scan. So I
Mhm.
would say then, pressing into those acupuncture points and tracing the meridians would bring energy and intention there and do that as many times a day as you want. So as often as you remember to do it, you can't overdo that.
Mhm.
Right. And then I generally follow up. I would scan people once a month for at least 3 months to just see if the products they need and the frequencies they need change. Because some things change immediately.
Mhm.
Like if you just have a cold or a flu, you can get over that pretty quick. But once you have things that have been going on for years, you need sustained effort.
Right. Sure, sure. That makes sense. Okay. Well, and then maybe at one point we could do a follow-up for the um
For
for
sure.
the audience that's watching and then
Yeah.
discuss what happened if you're up for that. And this will be
Yeah, no, I would love
in
to do
the
that
new
because
year.
one of the things that this software has the ability to do is also create a tracking progress. So you could see like
Okay.
month after month when you scan the colors of all of the things and how it's either gotten better, changed. And because sometimes you'll actually see that as you clear up some older issues,
Mhm.
are the, no, I wouldn't even say older ones, the ones the body's looking for first, because your
Right.
body always tells you what it needs immediately. But there's always layers to things. So
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
kind of deal with some of those top layer things, sometimes you get deeper and you realize that it was actually a bigger issue than the first one you thought it was.
Right, right. And maybe he's done all that work over the years, and this is the final one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I would like to think it was more like that after 20 years, 'cause
Well, it's
sometimes
always a journey. Like our bodies
it's
don't
always a
stay,
journey.
yeah, they don't stay still, right? Our body is constantly dissolving and reforming
Uh,
every second as we age, and it's so dynamic. It's beautiful but complicated.
yes. Yes, and yet healing can be easy, right? So, it's very interesting. Anyway, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
great.
your
Thank you so
time. Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that you guys got some insight out of that, and
Yeah,
hopefully,
Yeah.
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much.